Hey guys, Rayte here with another Pokemon challenge. Just like my previous challenge, we are sticking with a Generation 3 game, but this time we are playing a Gen 1 remake. Oh, and this time we are actually using a Dragon type. I checked. Today we are going to see how far we can get in Pokemon FireRed with just a Bagon. So yeah, this is a little bit of a curveball. This is the first challenge on this channel where we are using a Pokemon that doesn't naturally come from the game. There are a couple reasons for that. One being that after the previous challenge we just had with Swablu, it would be nice to have a slightly easier challenge. The second reason is I was curious to see how a first form dragon would do in Generation 1 remakes. I already did a Generation 1 dragon challenge with just Dratini, and I guess we could have repeated that with this game, but I wanted to use someone different. Maybe I will see how Dratini does in Leaf Green later on in the future. Anyway, let's get into the stats of Bagon. Its base stat total is right at 300, so we are a little shy of first form starter territory here. Special defense is our weakest point, a complete 180 from our last challenge, while our physical attack stat is our highest. We have good speed, and we are obviously more focused on physical stats in this challenge. I wish our HP was better, but sacrifices had to be made when our total base stats are this low. Now, I know some of you are really concerned about that special defense, and yes, it is a cause of concern, but our solo dragon typing really helps here. We resist 4 big special types: fire, water, grass, and electric. These types are the most common special types we will see besides psychic types, so instantly resisting them will be very useful in this challenge. Where we really have a problem is our weakness to ice types. Now, they are not quite as prevalent as the other types we just mentioned, but they will be a major hurdle that we will need to worry about later. Dragon types didn't really have any dragon type attacks in Generation 1, but this is Generation 3, so there are some actual dragon attacking moves that we will need to think about later in the endgame. And Fairy type doesn't exist in this game, so we don't need to worry about that. Back to dragon moves, and we have some good ones with Dragon Breath and Dragon Claw. It will be a little while before we see them though. Outside of Ember, Bite, and Crunch, we are really relying on normal moves and our strong physical attack stat when it comes to offense. TMs do add some variety, but I was actually hoping for a bigger spread than this. Well, what I was really hoping for was an electric move. But there are some decent physical attacking moves available, and since that is our shtick, we will probably be relying on some of these by the end of the game. So first, let's go over the rules real quick. I will only be using Bagon throughout the whole challenge, but I can still use other Pokemon for HMs to progress. No cheats, glitches, or hacks to advance, and I will be sticking with the trend where I won't be using any items in battle, only held items given to our team before the battle starts. I think we have a lot of things going for us in this challenge, but this is still going to have some rough spots. Dragon typing is great, but our stats are still far from amazing, and it's going to be a little while until our moveset reaches a point where it can make up for that. But enough talk, let's get going on this challenge. So we are in Professor Oak's lab and we have to get our starter. Figuring out which starter to replace with Bagon did take some time considering we technically resist all 3 main types. So instead I decided we could just have Bagon replace Bulbasaur so our rival will have Charmander. That way by the end of the game we are facing the foe dragon of this game. I nicknamed our Bagon Bagon to Breakers. I was originally going to do Bagel or Bacon, but at the point when I started this challenge, I was in an airport waiting to board a plane heading to San Francisco. I have a couple of friends who live over there and I try to visit them a couple times a year. While I was there, we were going to try this very popular annual 12K called Beta Breakers. Since I was going to see if I could complete this whole challenge while traveling, I decided to give Bagon a nickname that related to the trip. Okay, that was a long-winded explanation for the nickname. Outside of that, Bagon's stats are looking pretty even for the most part, except for special defense, which has a noticeable drop compared to the other stats. But the base stat spread we just looked at told us this stat would be lower than the others. Our ability is Rock Head, which negates recoil damage. This ability could be extremely useful later on in this challenge when we learn the move Double Edge. But for now, not so much. Our nature is naughty, meaning we will have increased attack and decreased special defense. This is literally the worst nature, and I didn't bother checking what stats were affected by this nature until much later into gameplay. So at this point of what you're seeing right now, I accepted it and I started the challenge. At this point in the challenge, I was just recording footage and I didn't want to log onto the plane's Wi-Fi to check. By the time I actually checked the affected stats, we had already made a lot of progress and I didn't want to reset the challenge. So I guess we are stuck with this nature for the whole thing. Great. Our moveset starting out here is just Rage and Bite. I'm not the biggest fan of Rage, and our special attack isn't the best, but Bite should carry us pretty far into the early game. It definitely made the first rival battle easy. We stick with Bite, and Charmander quickly falls behind in damage output. We might be in yellow health in the end, but I really never felt like we were going to lose this battle. Now, the rematch battle we had with a rival was a different story. Pidgey's sand attack was annoying since it did cause Rage to miss, but me using Rage was also part of the reason we lost, along with the critical hit tackle we suffered there at the end. We revisit the battle one level higher, and we are still using Rage and getting hit by sand attack. Our luck is holding in this attempt, however. We are doing a better job letting Rage build its power, and this time Pidgey is the one that goes down. We are in the yellow when Charmander comes out, but by this point in the battle, Rage is too much for our opponent. It also helps that one round lands as a critical hit, but we wrap up this battle a lot like how we did last time we beat our rival. From here, we can move on through Viridian Forest. None of the bug catchers are really a threat here, but I wasn't the smartest in these battles. Earlier when I was grinding Beta Breakers, actually, I'm going to call him B2B from here on out. It's faster and easier to say over and over. Anyway, as I was grinding B2B up to beat our rival for the second time, we had a few battles against a wild mate. Since they are fighting types, they resisted our dark type Bite pretty well. Now that we are in Viridian Forest and going against a lot of bug types, the other type that is super effective against dark types, I thought they would also resist Bite. So for a few battles here, I was relying on Rage for the win, since I felt like Bite wouldn't get us very far. But there are only so many power points for Rage, so after a while, we could no longer use that move. We have no choice than to use Bite as an attacking move. And oh, it actually does normal damage, and it turns out Bug doesn't resist dark moves. I wish I knew that sooner. The important thing is we know that information now, and we can easily clear the rest of the battlers in this forest. So now we are in Pewter City, and there really isn't much to do here besides beat Brock. Now I know I had a really rough start in my last challenge trying to beat the Rock Gym, but this one I think will be a much different story. And I was right. The main ticket to our success is having Bite. We aren't supposed to have a move like this so early in the game. Neither of Brock's Pokemon have great special defense, and the occasional flinch really puts us in the lead when it comes to damage output. Geodude wastes a turn using Defense Curl while we are attacking with a special move, and it goes down without dealing any damage to us. Onyx actually does land a hit, but we take Tackle and Bind really well, so it's not difficult at all for us to pull away with a lead and ultimately the win. That is a complete 9-day difference between the first two Rock Gyms and my two most recent challenges. So let's keep this pace going through Mount Moon and then into battling Misty. Not much to report in Mount Moon. I am not skipping battlers here because we still need experience and we need to keep our level competitive with who we will be facing soon. But none of these battles are particularly difficult. We get the Dome Fossil and move on from there to Cerulean City. Now we could battle our rival and take on Negative Bridge, but since we did so well against Brock and we resist water moves, I really want to keep this badge run as speedy as possible. But Misty has other plans by giving us a Rude Awakening. Okay, so this is the first time our special defense is truly exposed. And it is exposed. Well, our speed stat is also exposed, considering Staryu is faster than us. That was a little surprising too, but yeah, 2 water pulses from Staryu end this battle quickly. The second attempt went better with us actually beating Staryu, but Starmie ends the fight with 2 water pulses. We still have Bite and now Headbutt, which means we have 2 moves that can cause flinching, but considering we are slower than both of Misty's Pokemon, flinching is never going to happen. This, plus the heavy damage we are taking from Water Pulse and the confusion damage, means we don't really stand a chance. So it's grinding time, which is a little aggravating, but we had a pretty efficient start so far, and we have plenty of trainers we can fight north of Cerulean to get some experience, starting with our rival. Well, this battle sucks too. Again, Pidgeotto using Sand Attack causes problems since we can't get a move to land. Gust isn't hurting us that badly, and we do get a Headbutt to connect for some significant damage. But in the long run, we are in red health by the time we bring Pidgeotto down, which leads to an almost immediate knockout from Rattata's Quick Attack. Can we try this again? We can, but it doesn't get much better. Pidgeotto goes down, as does Rattata this time. But we are still getting pretty beaten up in the process, so we only have 2 health left when Charmander is sent out, and his Ember leads to another loss. Man, I don't want to grind against wild Pokemon just so we can beat our rival. Surely we can still win this fight at this level, right? Third try. Great start with Pidgeotto not using Sand Attack. Instead, we get a flinch and Pidgeotto just focuses on offense before going down. Now, things do take a nosedive when Rattatas Quick Attack lands as a critical hit. Its next Quick Attack does more realistic damage, and we're hitting harder anyway, so we still come out on top in the yellow. But that was definitely not ideal, especially with Charmander coming out, and we're already well aware that our special defense makes our type matchup practically useless. But Headbutt takes our opponent to half health and flinches, so another Headbutt removes the last real obstacle in this battle because, let's be honest, Abra is never a threat here. So we finally get the win, meaning we can finally make our way through Nugget Bridge and all the trainers beyond it as we head towards Bill's house. With all that done, we give Misty another try, and I was feeling really confident that we could pull this off, get back to kicking the gym leaders' butts, and start steamrolling every other opponent in our way. Remember, this is before I actually looked at B2B's nature and realized just how much of a liability our special defense was going to be. And to be fair to myself, we were seeing improvement. Stardew's Water Pulse is doing less damage to us and we take it out in 2 turns. Oh, and we're finally faster, which should have been an accomplishment we reached several levels ago considering our opponent is a starfish. But we're still slower than a larger starfish, and this starfish still has our number. We are hitting harder, but we're still going down. Just like the last session of getting tossed around by Misty, I only gave this battle 2 attempts before admitting we still weren't ready to win. Which still sucks, but we do have a new area filled with trainers and easy experience. Yep, we're taking the detour to Vermilion City, battling every opponent along the way, and once we get there, we make a beeline to the SS Anne, and don't battle every passenger on the ship. Yeah, I could have, but for the self-esteem boost, I went straight to throwing a beatdown on our rival. Well, I tried to. Yeah, we lost in the first attempt, and once again it all fell apart because of that stupid bird and its stupid Sand Attack. Let's try this again. A critical hit one-shot on Pidgeotto is already a marked improvement. Raticate needs 2 headbutts to knock it out, and none of our attacks miss, so again, yay. Kadabra can actually do stuff to us now, but on this turn, its Disable fails, Bite falls short of knocking it out, and now that I think about it, Headbutt probably would have scored the one-shot. It brings Kadabra down on the next turn anyway, but still. We level up to 26 before Charmeleon comes out, and we get a flinch with Headbutt. We stick with that move on the next turn, and it comes so close to ending the fight, but Charmeleon hangs on and uses Ember. No burn, no healing item, we easily win the battle on the next turn. Okay, so no Sand Attack, no problem. Now, with our rival gone, we could just go to the captain's quarters, get the HM for cut, and move back to dealing with Misty. But I decided to skip those first 2 steps and go straight to battling Misty. That way, on the off chance she is still beating us, we can go back to the SS Anne and battle every passenger for experience if we absolutely need to. And we actually do need to go back to the ship. Now again, all the work we did since last time we faced Misty did matter. We knocked Staryu out without taking any damage, but Starmie is still besting us. It is somehow still faster than us, and that is the sole reason we are losing this battle. Most of the times when we go down, Starmie is sitting in low health as well, but after multiple attempts, we never get the lead needed to be the last one standing. Getting Starmie to flinch would give us that lead, but since we are already being outsped, we will never get a flinch to happen. Also, confusion damage from Water Pulse is still very much a thing, and it makes attempts crash and burn in an even more frustrating way. So, we don't really have a choice, do we? We head back to the SS Anne, battle every opponent that we skipped earlier, and then visit Misty again. By this point, B2B is at level 30, and Staryu is easily one-shot by Headbutt. And Starmie is still faster than us. How are we slower than a starfish that is 9 levels lower than us? You know what? It's okay. You know why? Because even though our speed is letting us down, our attack stat is picking up the slack. Headbutt takes Starmie to half health. We got this. Crap, we just got confused by the second Water Pulse. Surely confusion damage isn't going to screw us over, right? Right? Please don't do this to us. Okay. Whew. Okay. We get Headbutt to actually connect, and we finally win this annoying battle. I should have known this game was never going to make this fight easy. Even when we finally had a breakthrough that should have made this battle a cakewalk, the game made sure we never got comfortable until the very end. Well, at this point, we don't really have much else to do besides face Lieutenant Surge. I mean, we could head west and blindly make our way through Rock Tunnel and do everything on the other side of it, but let's give Lieutenant Surge a shot so we can hopefully check this off of our to-do list quickly. I hope this battle is a complete 180 from our Misty chapter of this challenge. Electric attacks are another group of moves that we resist, but Misty just proved that we shouldn't get too comfortable with our type matchups. Our special defense is so bad that it can still be a major liability. So much so that even resisted special attacks can wreck us if we're not careful. Still, we give Lieutenant Surge a try, and things go pretty well for the most part. Voltorb is really close to being one-shot by Headbutt, and Lieutenant Surge heals it up. But that just gives us back-to-back turns to attack, ending with Voltorb going down before it can even touch us. Pikachu follows and is a critical hit one-shot with Headbutt. Bad thing about this is that we trigger Pikachu's static ability, leaving us paralyzed while Raichu is sent out, which means it gets to move first and starts the exchange with Double Team. We are able to land a Headbutt soon after, but for the rest of the battle, we are unable to get another one to connect, while turn after turn, we continue taking shockwaves. Okay, maybe that battle didn't go as well as I thought it would. Maybe the next one will give us the win? It was actually the fourth attempt that went our way. There really isn't anything new to talk about in the other attempts. We lost the exact same way as the battle I just described. Raichu had great evasion luck with Double Team, and while we weren't paralyzed in every attempt, it didn't really matter. Either way, we could never land the finishing blow while consistently getting blasted by the 100% accuracy Shockwave. In the attempt we did win, we still failed to one-shot Voltorb with Headbutt, which again leads to Lieutenant Surge breaking out a Super Potion. And we quickly follow up with 2 attacks to score the knockout. Pikachu is still a one-shot, and this time it doesn't even need to be a critical hit. Oh, and we don't get paralyzed by static. But Raichu is still faster than us and still loves opening with Double Team. But finally, that move doesn't matter. Back-to-back Headbutts land, and that is more than enough for us to pull off the win and earn the badge. And with that, I'm told I need to close this laptop because the plane is landing at our layover destination. So yeah, as we flew out to Cincinnati and landed in Salt Lake City, we picked up 3 badges. My goal for this trip was to earn the first 4 badges before arriving in San Francisco, so in a way we're making great time. Or so I thought, because before shutting everything down for landing in Salt Lake City, I realized OBS wasn't working properly. The last few gym victories were technically recorded, but all you could see was a still frame of me standing in the SSN. So the Misty and Lieutenant Surge commentary I just shared with you was actually recorded later on in the flight from Salt Lake City to SF, which was frustrating, not gonna lie, because the last save file I had where I could re-record those gym battles was right outside Mount Moon, which meant I had to battle our rival twice, clear all Nugget Bridge, fight through the routes north and south of Cerulean City, replay the entirety of the SSN before I could even get back to Misty and Lieutenant Surge. So it may have taken me more attempts to beat those 2 than I let on, but honestly, I have no idea how many attempts it actually took. The good news is, I got a lot of that repeated legwork done while sitting in the terminal waiting to board, so it didn't take too long to get back to Misty and shortly afterwards Lieutenant Surge. Once those 2 are officially defeated, and trust me, I checked the footage to make sure it recorded correctly, we can finally tackle the blind walkthrough of Rock Tunnel. Now, I'm going to be honest, this is one of those challenges where I got lost in Rock Tunnel and accidentally exited through the entrance side. Look, I've been up since 6 AM, I worked a full shift at my real job, then hightailed it with my sister to the airport and spent the entire time working on this challenge. Cut me some slack. The good news is that we handle all the trainers in this tunnel like a champ. A major reason for that is B2B learning Dragon Breath while we're here. This move hits pretty hard at this stage of the game, and the chance to paralyze opponents is amazing. It's a great way to handle all these hikers, and we're not too beaten up by the time we finally exit the cave on the correct side. You know, the side facing Lavender Town. There's a lot we need to do on this side of the map, but the first thing I want to do is face our rival again, so let's get into that. Our new move, Dragon Breath, makes a great opening statement by paralyzing Pidgeotto and taking it to half health. Oh look, Sand Attack. Quick Attack deals very little damage, and we're fortunate enough to get Headbutt to land right afterward and take out our rival's first Pokemon. Gyarados is annoying thanks to Intimidate lowering our attack. Headbutt lands, but Gyarados is still in the green, and its Thrash is much more threatening. I decide to switch to a special move, but Bite misses. Thrash takes us into the red, but our opponent is now confused. The next Bite lands and causes a flinch, which leads to another Bite connecting. Now both Pokemon are sitting in the red, but no flinch this time, meaning we need Gyarados to hit himself in confusion. But that doesn't happen either, and we lose from there. And I really hate to say it, but we see a similar outcome in the next few tries at this battle. Well, the third one we actually did beat Gyarados, but Execute took us out right after, so that wasn't much of an improvement. But we stick with it, and we finally make some progress. It helped that Pidgeotto flinched on our opening Headbutt, so we take it out on the next turn. Full health and no accuracy drop. We still have the attack stat drop from Intimidate with Gyarados sent out next. It does weaken Dragon Breath, but it doesn't prevent paralysis from sticking. We stall Gyarados on the next turn, and the luck keeps coming with Bite causing a flinch on the following turn. Actually, we get a second flinch right after, so we're really on a roll here. With all of this going our way, we are able to get one more Bite out to remove the biggest threat from this battle so far. Execute barely survives a Dragon Breath, misses a Hypnosis, and we knock it out with Bite from there. First time seeing Kadabra in this battle, but it has an even worse showing than Execute by being one-shot by a critical hit Headbutt. I don't think the critical hit was needed for this one. Which just leaves Charmeleon. Dragon Breath takes it to half health, and we take Ember like a champ. So we stick with our one stab move for the win. From here we can move on to Celadon City, where we can get the 4th gym badge of the game, which is great because my goal was to get the first 4 gym badges before landing in San Francisco. We have actually done a really good job making progress since as soon as we took off, we had to backtrack to a really early save file and grind B2B to a level where it could be Misty and Lieutenant Surge, so we would actually have some footage of us beating them. Since we had to do all that, plus get through Rock Tunnel technically twice, this has been a very productive session. Now I know it wasn't the strongest move, but I am hoping Ember is enough for us to smoke Erica out. Pun intended. We have had this move for a while now. I mean, we even had it before we beat Misty and Lieutenant Surge, but outside of it helping bring down the random Magnemite, it hasn't really had a lot of use in battle. The special type gym leaders have been giving me more issues than I was expecting, but I'm still hoping that Erica will be the exception by giving us an easy victory. We use Dragon Breath on Victory Bell to start the battle. Our opponent is still in the green, but paralyzed. Unfortunately, so are we after Victory Bell uses Stun Spore. But we are still able to get Victory Bell to red health with another Dragon Breath. Acid barely injures us, and I know a heal up is coming from Erica, but I still switch to Ember. It lands, but we are unable to attack for the next couple turns. We are still handling Acid well, but we really need to get back to attacking. When we do, Ember takes Victory Bell back to red health. Even better, it is unable to attack on this turn thanks to its own paralysis. We, however, can still attack and finally take down Erica's first Pokemon. Tangela follows and starts as part of the battle by defensively using Ingrain. We, on the other hand, get stalled by paralysis. Constrict doesn't deal a lot of damage, but it is enough to bring B2B to yellow health. Ember does the same to Tangela, and it must be really close to red health. Tangela sticks with its weak Constrict, and then we use another Ember to move on to Bioplume. We take another weak Acid, but we are unable to respond that turn. Another Acid, and we fall to red health. When we get back to attacking, we deliver a surprisingly weak Dragon Breath, and then go down from a Giga Drain. Well, that was not the outcome we wanted, obviously, and I hate to say it, but that loss was not a one-time fluke either. I gave this battle a couple more attempts, and each time was a loss, mainly due to status conditions. If we weren't paralyzed, we were poisoned, and we just couldn't hang in there long enough to win the battle. By this point, I heard the announcement that we were going to land soon, and that of course means laptop needs to be put away. Now I was going back and forth on whether I was going to work on this challenge during some downtime while in San Francisco, but this is technically a vacation from all work. I'm thankful that my job is situated in such a way that I don't necessarily have to take my work home with me. I can leave it behind and know other people will pick up where I left off as I fly to the other side of the country. Where I still struggle with my whole work-life balance is with these videos. Now don't get me wrong, I love making these videos. This is easily one of my favorite hobbies. But I'm very deadline driven, and I'm not the most forgiving person to myself when I don't meet the arbitrary deadlines I have mentally set in stone. So I basically decided that I was not going to touch my laptop the whole time I was in San Francisco. Besides, I had an extremely fun-packed 5 days while I was there. It was not my first time there by any means, and I love the fact that there are still new landmarks, restaurants, and bars that my friends can still introduce me to. I saw Florence and the Machine for the second time in my life. That's always a life-changing experience. And I did my first 12K. Well, I walked it. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, the big thing we were doing in SF was their annual 12K beta breakers. I don't really have enough time to go into detail about this race. I thought it was a relatively new thing based on how they advertise themselves, but it turns out this race is actually over 100 years old. And with that comes a lot of traditions that I can't really cover right now. Just know that my sister, my friends, and I dressed as the Scooby-Doo gang, and we walked the course with thousands of people, stopping at random points along the way for drinks and party stops. I have at least one friend that would say I didn't really do a 12K, but for the doubters, I got a medal, and I walked over 15 miles that day, so take from that what you will. Also, just real quick, another reason I didn't work on this challenge while staying at my friend's place is that they actually don't know about this channel. One of them likes Pokemon too, and I've been waiting to see if one of my videos will just randomly pop up on their algorithm. Who knows, maybe this one will. Let's see how long it takes for that to happen, if it's even going to happen at all. Anyway, after all of that, my friend drove my sister and me back to the airport, and with my sore feet and desperate need of a caffeine boost, I sat at the airport terminal looking west, just trying to think about how we were going to beat Erica. It actually didn't take that long for me to come up with a solution. I mean, we are in Celadon City, which means we have the Celadon Game Corner just down the street. Which means we have a way to get the TM for the better fire move, Flamethrower. So as soon as we took off into the sky in real life, pixelated FireRed me got the coin case from the guy in the diner? Sure, it looks like a diner. And immediately started exchanging my money for coins so we could get the TM. We haven't really been spending our money much in this challenge, but we're still short when it comes to coins. Although I have a long flight where I'm literally flying from the west coast all the way to the east coast, I don't want to dilly-dally. I want this to be efficient game time in the clouds. So instead of relying on good luck from the slots, I decided to get coins by battling more trainers so we could earn more money. And there is no better place to start this task than the basement of the game corner that we are currently in. Wow, Celadon just keeps giving us opportunities to better ourselves, doesn't it? There really isn't much to talk about when it comes to battling the Rocket Grunts. They are easy to defeat, and with that, we are racking up more money and more experience. But this leg of the challenge culminates in our first battle against Giovanni, so let's talk about that. He starts with Onyx, which starts with Harden. If you're wondering why an Onyx that is 15 levels lower than us is moving first, it is because I got paralyzed right before this battle, and I didn't have anything to get rid of the status condition. I didn't feel like backtracking to the Pokemon Center, and I like a challenge, so we are going to give this battle a go like this. Dragon Breath deals a lot of damage, and both Pokemon repeat their opening moves, which of course leads to Onyx's downfall. Rhyhorn starts its part of the battle with Scary Face, which is really stupid on Giovanni's part because we are paralyzed. How did this guy become the leader of a secret underground crime ring is beyond me. Dragon Breath is still hitting, and this one does bring paralysis. Rhyhorn is immobilized on the next turn, and we are not, so there goes another one of Giovanni's Pokemon. Kangaskhan is last out, and Mega Punch takes us to half health. Dragon Breath is weaker in this exchange, but we don't get to stick around and try our other moves. Kangaskhan Bite flinches us, and another Mega Punch brings us down. Okay. Pride goes before the fall. I learned my lesson. Run back to the Pokemon Center, heal B2B up, and now we are not paralyzed as we fight Giovanni. But you know who is paralyzed? Onyx after our first Dragon Breath. He is still able to attack us with a really weak Rock Throw, and we are able to knock him out right after. Rhyhorn is basically the same story. He doesn't get paralyzed, but it takes 2 Dragon Breaths to take him out of the battle, and his one attack hardly hurts us. Kangaskhan is now out, and Dragon Breath is still our bread and butter for this battle. And just like the previous one, it's not doing a lot of damage here, but we get paralysis this time around. We are still in the green after we get bitten by Kangaskhan, and our next Dragon Breath lands as a critical hit. Another bite and we fall to yellow health, but from there, we end this battle with a headbutt. You would think that Giovanni, being the leader of a major crime syndicate, would have a lot of money to give us when we beat him, but we are actually still shy of having enough money to cash in for the flamethrower TM. So I decided to fight more trainers for more money. I went to the old lady in town so we could get some tea, giving us access to Saffron. Originally I decided to just go ahead and take on Sabrina while we were there, but then I was reminded that Team Rocket still has control over that city, so we would have to do Silphco first. I just decided that we should beat Erica first before we mess with all that, but don't worry, we still have a lot of trainers we can fight outside of Saffron. We head back to Pokemon Tower and we fight everyone we can there. These are really short fights since we're just fighting a lot of ghosts and we have Crunch. Oh yeah, actually we get to level 41 while we are here and I replace Bite with Crunch. I'm going to miss the flinch chance, but we still have Headbutt and I would like to have a stronger Dark type move. Anyway, we clear every floor of the tower and we free Mr. Fuji from Team Rocket, battle every other trainer we skipped on neighboring routes, and we finally have enough money to get the Flamethrower TM. We get it, immediately slap it on B2B to replace Ember, and here we come, Erica. It shouldn't really come as a surprise now, but this battle is not really worth commenting on. Flamethrower is much stronger than Ember, and we gained a lot of experience while raising money by battling all those extra trainers. Victory Bell and Tangela were both one-shots from our new fire move. Swablu hangs on from our attack, misses a Sleep Powder, gets healed up by Hyper Potion, which just lets us fire back-to-back flamethrowers to easily checkmate this battle. I was a little bummed about how easy that fight was. I was kind of hoping for a little more conflict to make this more interesting, but the fact is we have built a bit of a level lead and we're getting better moves now. I'm not complaining since pretty much every gym that we have a resistance to has actually given us issues. Maybe all the work we just did will be enough to steamroll the next few sections of the game, and we can make some major progress for the remainder of the flight. From here we head to Fuchsia, and I do take care of some housekeeping items there, like getting the HMs for Surf and Strength. But what you all really care about is our fight with Koga. Our level lead is not as high as I thought it was, and yes, Dragon Breath does great work against Coughing, but considering his first move is Toxic, how do you think this battle went? Coughing does go down, but Muck is more of a nuisance with Minimize. This really draws out the battle, and since Toxic is basically a countdown until we lose, we get stalled out long enough to faint when we get to the second Coughing. We try a few more times against Koga, and we keep losing while being poisoned each time. We do get to Wheezing though, so it's not like we're doing horrible. I mean, yes, we're still losing, but we have performed much worse in other battles in this challenge. After a while though, we put a pin in this fight and work on something else. Since the Safari Zone is in town, we head in there and try to catch as many Pokemon as we can. Most of you know why I have a sudden interest in working on my Pokedex, but for those of you who don't know, if you talk to Professor Oak's aide east of Vermilion City, and you have 30 Pokemon in your Pokedex, he will give you the item finder. I always tell myself to start catching Pokemon as soon as we start the challenge so we can slowly work towards this goal as we go, but every time I do a FireRed Leaf Green challenge, I always procrastinate on this task until we get about 4 badges in. Tale as old as time. Now, it probably doesn't surprise anyone, but we can't meet our goal of 30 Pokemon from just the Safari Zone alone, so we go back to previous routes that we have visited to find additional Pokemon so that we can hit our mark. After some time spent doing all of that, we get to the point where we can walk up to the aide and he gives us the item finder. From there we head east a little bit more, defeat the Snorlax, and use the item finder to get the real item we are after, Leftovers. I knew it was probably a long shot, but we returned to battling Koga, with the only change being B2B is now holding our new item, leading to a small heal up each turn. And yeah, getting a small amount of HP back each turn might be nice in cancelling out normal poison damage, but in the long run it doesn't help us enough to get the win. Also, if we get hit with Toxic, I just went ahead and called that battle a loss. So yeah, we have to grind some more and decided to get B2B to level 50 and see how things go from there. So much for thinking we would be strong enough to get a solid sweep going in this flight. At level 50, we are looking at a great attack stat. Seriously, this is the best thing we have going for us outside of our typing. Defense and speed are not bad either. Special attack is a little disappointing, but you almost forget about it with that special defense being right below it at an abysmal 35. That is horrible at this level, and this explains why we have been struggling with every special type gym leader. I am so glad we are Dragon type because without these resistances, we would be going down much quicker if we were a different type. At this point, I still had not looked at what stats were affected by our naughty nature. Still, poison is not special, so our worst stat is not the reason we lost all those past battles against Koga. But after taking a look at how we are looking stat-wise at level 50, I'm still not confident that we will be victorious against Koga at this level. So I sidetracked and head back to Saffron where we could get some extra experience in Silphco. Now I am not at the level of panic where I feel like I need to battle every Team Rocket grunt or scientist here. Instead, I'm doing my best to beeline to our rival and use that battle to gauge how things are really looking for us. I am just going to go ahead and say that this first attempt is a loss, but things do not look too bleak from where we are currently standing. It does help that Pidgeot doesn't use his go-to sand attack in this battle to lower our accuracy. He also doesn't deal a lot of damage, and with leftovers we have plenty of health when our first opponent goes down. Intimidate's attack drop is always annoying, but paralysis from the first Dragon Breath helps us immensely when it comes to Gyarados. He likes Dragon Rage, which is at an awkward point of the game where 40 fixed damage is starting to lose its threatening power. What is scary is Twister, since we are weak to dragon attacks. Sure, that was a critical hit, but we cannot survive another one of those now. We do benefit from paralysis stalling Gyarados, and since Crunch is not affected by Intimidate, we were able to weaken Gyarados enough in past turns for a headbutt on this turn to be strong enough to bring him down. But Charizard is next up, and his Flamethrower ends the battle easily. The next attempt went even worse since Gyarados took us out pretty quickly. Let's not dwell on that. Here we go again. Pidgeot is first out, a headbutt almost takes him to half health. Sticking with offense via wing attack is still our rival's plan, and it still hardly hurts us. Flamethrower takes Pidgeot to the red, and we finish him off on the next turn with the same move. Gyarados and Intimidate follow. I am hoping for a paralysis with Dragon Breath, and it delivers. Gyarados is unable to do anything on its first turn. Things keep coming up Redite as our following headbutt flinches Gyarados, and another one takes him to low red health. Gyarados does finally get an attack out with Dragon Rage, but we win this exchange soon after. Still in the green this time when Charizard comes out. Another opening Dragon Breath for this exchange. No paralysis, but I will take the critical hit. Scary Face might be annoying, but for the time being, we didn't lose any health on this turn, so I will take it. Okay, I take that back. I should have known that one Scary Face was all Charizard needed to outspeed us. Flamethrower is scary, but the silver lining I am clinging to is that we are still in the yellow. Dragon Breath fails to knock out our opponent, but paralysis is tacked on during this turn, which fortunately gives us the lead in the speed race. So we get a headbutt out first, and I have no idea what Charizard's next move was going to be since he goes down here. Okay, new territory for B2B in this battle, but we are pretty beaten up at the moment. I hope leftovers can put in the work. Execute is now out, we are faster than it despite the Scary Face, and Flamethrower does more than enough to one-shot it. Alakazam is last for arrival, and of course this thing is faster than us. Crunch might be super effective, but we have to lean into our attack stat here. Of course, Intimidate is still in effect, so looking back, Crunch might have been the better option. I didn't think about that though in the moment, so we go with Dragon Breath. I was worried that we were done for anyway since Alakazam should use Psychic, emphasis on the should, since our rival has his Pokemon use Future Sight instead. Dragon Breath doesn't do as much damage as I was hoping, but we still have great luck with Paralysis popping up. Of course, I completely forgot that Alakazam has the Synchronize ability, so we are paralyzed now too. Jeez, I'm playing like an idiot when it comes to this Alakazam part of the battle. We get fortunate with Alakazam being unable to attack on the next turn, and we are able to use Headbutt. It comes so close to knocking out our rival's last Pokemon. Alakazam is able to move on the next turn, but the turn is still wasted with him trying to stack Future Sights, which always fails. Maybe we're both idiots. Following that misstep, we get Headbutt to land one more time, giving us the win over our rival on the third attempt. Okay, luck threw us a bone considering I should not have won with some of the decisions I made in the end, but I'll take it. I don't know if we will struggle when it comes to Giovanni at this level, but we don't have anything else to do really, so let's jump into that fight. Actually, this battle went pretty well. Nidorino is first out and Dragon Breath takes him to half health. Nidorino's Horn attack is weak and his Fury attack isn't any better. A couple more Dragon Breaths take him out. Nidoqueen is more tanky, but I stick with the same move when she comes out on the off chance we get Paralysis to stick. It does on the first go, and our luck helps us out even more by avoiding getting paralyzed from her own Body Slam. Crunch is doing about the same as Dragon Breath and still no paralysis from Body Slam, but we did just fall to half health. Leftovers gets us back to the green, we deliver another subpar Crunch, and we continue to dodge status conditions. This time it was poison from Poison Sting. So for the next 2 turns, Nidoqueen is unable to attack thanks to paralysis, and we keep delivering our whelming attacks. It might not be much, but it's enough to get the job done. Now Giovanni has Kangaskhan out, which means our attacks still aren't hitting as hard. That being said, it's not like Rage is that scary either. We both stick with our starting moves, and if you use Dragon Breath enough times, eventually you will paralyze your target. Kangaskhan gets paralyzed and is unable to attack on her last turn, so we switch to Headbutt to take her out of the battle. All we need to focus on now is Rhyhorn, and this thing still can't handle Dragon Breath well. He immediately falls to yellow health and is paralyzed right out of the gate. After another weak Fury attack, we attack one more time and we easily win the battle. Okay, we could have battled every trainer in Silphco for the experience, but with our wins against our rival in Giovanni, I think we proved that we are ready to beat Koga. But just to be on the safe side, let's face Sabrina since we are already in Saffron. Kadabra is first out and instantly goes down from a headbutt. We give Crunch a try when Mr. Mime comes out, and it does deliver a lot of damage, bringing her to half health. Mrs. Mime then sets up a barrier, which does install our Crunch from taking it out on the next turn. We level up to level 52 and misclick by sticking with Crunch when Venomoth comes out. Actually, we use that move again on the next turn, and that wasn't an accident. I don't know what I was doing there. But we are doing fine against Venomoth, which just wasted 2 turns by missing Supersonic. Sabrina uses a Hyper Potion, and then we switch to the move I feel like we should have been using the whole time. Flamethrower. It's not a one-shot, and Sabrina decides to use another Hyper Potion. It's okay though, because Flamethrower just brings our opponent back to red health. No heal up from here, and another Flamethrower brings us to Sabrina's ace, Alakazam. This is where we encounter a problem. I'm not surprised this guy's faster than us, and I know our special defense is abysmal, but I still didn't think we would be one-shot from a non-critical hit sidekick. I mean, Alakazam does have an amazing special attack stat, and Psychic is the best Psychic move in the game, but still I figured we would still be in the fight after that move. Can we even win this battle at this level? Well, we give this fight another try. Kadabra is still a one-shot with Headbutt. We don't use Crunch on Mr. Mime and instead stick with Headbutt. They survive that attack, but flinch. Sabrina uses a Hyper Potion, so the turn isn't a complete waste. Headbutt this time takes Mrs. Mime to red health, and Sabrina burns another Hyper Potion. We use a Crunch followed by one more Headbutt to finally bring Mrs. Mime down. Venomoth still survives a Flamethrower, and this time they actually land a hit thanks to Psybeam. With no more healing items, Venomoth goes down on the next turn. But I think this battle is a loss since we are not at full health, and I don't think we can survive a Psychic in this spot. Alakazam starts with Future Sight. I would have stuck with Psychic if I was Sabrina, but that's just me. Headbutt is still a solid attack, but not a one-shot. So I'm expecting Psychic to be coming now. Okay, another Future Sight. Well, I just said this like 5 minutes ago, but that attack does not stack, so you wasted your turn, and I'm gonna win this fight now. Sabrina totally threw that fight. Really weird AI programmed for Sabrina, for sure. But I'm not gonna focus on that too much right now, because I want to beat Koga and move on. Which is why I'm fast forwarding to us being back in Fuchsia, and we are gonna give this battle another go. Thanks to a flinch, the first Coughing goes down in 2 headbutts without laying an attack on us. Muck has a similar fate, but it can handle 2 headbutts in a flinch. It sets up Acid Armor and gets a Hyper Potion. Flamethrower and Dragon Breath try their best, but Muck is still in the green. Minimize can be a real problem, but Dragon Breath still lands. So does Headbutt, as a critical hit. From there we face the second Coughing, and this thing faces the exact same fate as the first one, so moving on to Wheezing. Leftovers got us back to full health, and we somehow keep our trend of flinching our opponent with the first Headbutt. Oh, a second flinch, and before you know it, Wheezing is in red health, and Sludge is not that scary anymore. Koga breaking out a Hyper Potion is annoying, Headbutt and Dragon Breath take Wheezing into yellow health, and we finally get the Toxic treatment in this battle. But it's a little too late, as our next Dragon Breath takes Wheezing down, and finally we can move on in the storyline. Which is Cinnabar Island and Blaine. This script is getting kinda long, so let's just skip the whole part where I wander through the Pokemon Mansion to get the key to even make it into the gym. And instead, we're just going to jump into the actual battle with Blaine. I don't have a good feeling about this one, and that's not me being falsely pessimistic. I'm actually being very realistic here. We resist fire-type attacks, but our special defense is pitiful. And this battle deals with 2 rounds of Intimidate, so our best stat will be severely hampered. But we will give it a go and see how things really stack up at this level. Growlithe is first, and there's Intimidate number 1, meaning Headbutt would have been a one-shot if that ability didn't exist. But the silver lining is we are still in the green after taking a Fire Blast. Dragon Breath knocks out Blaine's first Pokemon, and now we get Ponyta. I will take the critical hit Dragon Breath, moving on to its evolved form, Rapidash. But first we need to figure out if we want to learn Double Edge since we just leveled up. Now usually I don't use these kind of moves because I never want to pay the recoil damage, but with our ability we don't take recoil damage. It was still a tough decision. But I gave up Headbutt for our new move. I'm going to miss the flinching, but I want to keep the other moves we currently have and still have a hard-hitting normal move. We don't move to our new move right away as we stick with Dragon Breath when Rapidash comes out. But we premiere Double Edge on the next turn and Rapidash almost goes down. Oh, so close to knockout. Its Fire Blast is more scary than Growlithe's as we saw on the previous turn, but on this one the move misses. Yeah, I saw the Hyper Potion coming, but it just means that we can now get 2 Double Edges out to move on and see how far we can get against the biggest threat in this battle, which is Arcanine. There's the second Intimidate, Dragon Breath fails to paralyze, and even though Leftovers got us back into green health, we obviously were not going to survive Arcanine's Fire Blast. Second attempt went better considering we had way more health by the time we had to face Arcanine, but we still lost in the end anyway. I take that as a sign that we aren't going to win in this kind of matchup. So I backtrack and face every trainer in the gym and everyone on the sea routes around Cinnabar Island so we could revisit the battle at level 55. And the battle actually went worse than the ones we had at the lower level, considering Rapidash was able to beat us in this one, and the next one, and the next one. At least the 4th one, we got to Arcanine, but no, level 55 is not going to cut it. So after some more grinding, we see Blaine again at level 60. At this point, we really only have one obstacle in our way, and obviously it's Arcanine. We can easily one-shot Growlithe and Ponyta with Double Edge. Rapidash can survive the move, deliver a Fire Blast that we can survive in the green. Blaine will use a Hyper Potion, and Rapidash goes down to our Dragon Breath Double Edge combo. But none of these successes matter if Arcanine has our number. We come close on a few attempts, but Arcanine's defeat is just not happening. And to add insult to injury, this last attempt was the last recording I did before we got the announcement that we were about to land in Charlotte and we had to prepare for landing. Now some of you might be thinking, but Radite, you don't live in Charlotte, so you still have another flight home. You can still meet your goal of getting all 8 badges before finishing your last flight. And technically, you would be right, fictional YouTube viewer, but I had finally hit a wall and couldn't bring myself to open my laptop. It was late, I was jet lagged, and the flight itself was less than an hour, so I tried my best to get some shut-eye. I did not get any. Landed in CBG a little bit after midnight, drove home in the rain, stopped at Taco Bell along the way, and my sister and I watched maybe an hour of TV before we just passed out. From there I rested up and got back into my work-life schedule, and when I had time I wrote the script for this video up until this point because I was so focused on playing the game that I felt really behind on writing the script as I went. But now we're home, back to normal life routine, and the script is caught up. So how are we going to beat Blaine? Well, now that we are back to our normal work environment, we have now made the discovery about what our nature means and how it is affecting this challenge, like I've been mentioning sporadically in the video. Knowing that our special defense is atrophied for this whole challenge does make things a little scary, and to be honest, it is also disheartening knowing what we have to deal with before we get to the credits of this game. But moving past all of that, this information is really a motivation. Knowing what it is, we accept the fact that we will have to be at an extremely high level by the end of this challenge if we truly want to win it all. So, Yeah, I just got back to grinding, except that we will revisit Blaine at level 65 and just keep adding levels from there. Being at this level is not the definitive solution to this battle. We are hitting harder and basically just rely on double edge for most of it. We still can't one-shot Rapidash, but that being said, this is still a great spot to burn through Blaine's healing items so he won't have them for Arcanine. But when that big dog comes out, we still see a quick defeat. So maybe we need to change gears and try to get Paralysis to stick before going back to Double Edge. Still, at level 65 for the next attempt, and the first 3 Pokemon go down just like before, and we switch to Dragon Breath as soon as Arcanine is released, but no Paralysis hits and Fire Blast meets us immediately after. So we are not seeing any improvement with this strategy. Leftovers has healed us back to a decent amount, but we are still hopeful for Paralysis, or we can get a critical hit. That actually works better. I will take that. Okay, we probably could have more confidently beaten Blaine at level 70, but we pulled off the win at 65, and I want to move on from here. We head directly to Giovanni so we can get the last badge of the game. This might still be a slightly difficult battle, but we can win it. The battle starts with the first Rhyhorn, and Dragon Breath continues to deal easy one-shots like it has the whole challenge. Dugtrio is weaker defensively, so I thought Dragon Breath would be another one-shot, but it actually survives it. Its Earthquake is a critical hit, but we're still in the green. Giovanni uses a Hyper Potion, which I did not expect. Crunch still does solid damage, and we use it again for the knockout. Nidoqueen is the tankiest member of Giovanni's team so far. Flamethrower is a safe option, but it still falls short of taking it to half health. We are hit by another Earthquake and stay in the green. Dragon Breath takes it to red, and we drop into the red as well from a critical hit Earthquake. Giovanni then heals Nidoqueen back to full health. It's risky, but we need to hit hard and fast, so we go for Double Edge. It connects, and we move on to Nidoking. Leftovers has brought us to yellow health, but Nidoking can still end us here. Still, it's less bulky, so we commit to another Double Edge. It lands the one-shot, but we trigger a Poison Point in the process. Now we have to deal with the second Rhyhorn, but this time Dragon Breath does not secure a one-shot, and Rhyhorn finishes us off with Earthquake. Okay, I'm still confident we can beat Giovanni at this level, but to do it, we need to fully commit to the Blaine mindset. Double edge everything into oblivion. We still have the risk of Poison Point when it comes to Nidoqueen and Nidoking, but that's the trade-off. Dragon Breath still one-shots the first Rhyhorn. Dugtrio comes out and immediately falls to Double Edge. Nidoqueen follows and almost drops to one-shot, but we get poisoned. Things look rough, but we are still in this. Earthquake lands and we stay in the green thanks to leftovers, though poison keeps ticking us down. Giovanni heals, but we repeat the attack and eventually take Nidoqueen out. Now, outside of direct damage, leftovers heals us for 10 HP each turn, and poison deals 20, meaning we are on a net loss every turn. Nidoking actually survives Double Edge in this attempt, which means another Earthquake comes through, and suddenly, our timer is drastically shortened. Giovanni is out of healing items though, so Nidoking goes down soon after, but we only have a couple of turns at most for Rhyhorn. I hesitate for a moment, but stick with Dragon Breath, which comes in clutch and paralyzes Rhyhorn. Even though it still gets to attack, takedown misses, leftovers, poison damage, and we are now sitting at 10 HP. One more Dragon Breath seals the nail-biting win. What a way to wrap up the badge run. That was stressful, but we survive, and even though I'm not sure we can beat our rival, I head straight into that fight after healing at the Pokemon Center. Pidgeot is not a one-shot, but also not a threat, so we take it down without taking anything serious in return. Gyarados is scarier, but not as much as earlier battles. Intimidate is still annoying, and Twister is a bit concerning, but between Dragon Breath, Paralysis, and Double Edge, we always manage to bring it down. Charizard is where things fall apart. Intimidate weakens us, Flamethrower stacks damage, and we cannot keep up, so we lose here almost every time. I gave this battle multiple attempts, and this was the consistent wall. What doesn't help is that we never get Paralysis to stick during this phase. After multiple defeats, I finally try leaning fully into Double Edge against Charizard, hoping the damage output can outpace it. We end up in very low health, but maybe leftovers can carry us through the rest. Or we just get another critical hit one-shot. That will work too. Next up is Rhyhorn, and we go back to Dragon Breath. It barely hangs on, hits back with takedown. The recoil is not enough to finish it, but we clean it up next turn. Execute follows and goes down to Flamethrower. Alakazam comes out, and I am not confident we can survive a sidekick even in the green, but we don't have to find out. We are now faster, and Double Edge finishes it in one hit. Now, it might not come as a surprise to anyone watching this video that I'm going to face every battler on Victory Road. We do have a level lead, and all the stats are looking good except, well, you know, special defense. That's the one weak link that can bring this whole run down. We might get to bump it up a little through these battles, but the main focus is raising our other stats so we can hit faster and harder, shortening the battles, and avoid taking hits in the first place. In typical Generation 1 fashion, we have to deal with Lorelei, and that's obviously going to be the biggest hurdle in the final stretch. I expect we're going to struggle with that battle a lot before we get through it. Bruno and Agatha don't seem as problematic, and Lance is a toss-up since it will be Dragon vs. Dragon. The rival will be difficult too, but I'd like to think that by the time we reach him, we will be strong enough to get a solid win. Once we get to the Elite Four, B2B is at level 70. Jeez, look at the contrast between our special defense and the rest of our stats. 46. I don't think that stat is even going to hit 50 until we're almost at level 90. Special attack is almost in the triple digits, and everything else is already there. We really got a horrible roll on special defense. I am hoping the rest of our stats can make up for it, but right now I am skeptical. Still, we don't have anything else to do besides face the final major challenge, Lorelei. So let's see how well we actually handle this fight. The plan is simple: hit hard, fast. Double Edge is the main move here, but without a one-shot, one Ice Beam is enough to take us out. The verdict is clear. I shouldn't have bothered showing our stats at level 70 because this is not the level we want. We burned through some of our rare candies to try again at level 75, and it turns out I was wrong. Our special defense does reach 50 with only 5 more levels. These level ups don't make enough of a difference though. We used the remaining rare candies and reached level 78, but that still is not enough. After more preparation, I pushed B2B to level 85. We're still losing at this level, but now a win feels within reach. Some losses are just trial and error. I thought Flamethrower could one-shot Jinx, but it didn't, and we went down to an Ice Punch. We got unlucky with a few critical hits. Another loss came from Slowbro putting us to sleep with Yawn, and since we can't take more than one Ice-type hit, we didn't last long there either. I didn't want to mid-defeat and push to level 90 yet, so we keep trying. One attempt in particular starts extremely well, with us landing a critical hit one-shot right away. Dugong doesn't even get a chance to move or set up Hail, and we go into Slowbro still at full health. Double Edge is still the plan, and Slowbro wastes a turn with Amnesia, letting us land another Double Edge and stay at full health. Jinx goes down to a single Double Edge as well, still at full health. Lorelei sends out Lapras instead of Cloyster here. Not surprisingly, it survives Double Edge, but we are now strong enough to take an Ice Beam and survive. With the Citrus Berry healing Lapras back into the green, Lorelei does not heal, so another Double Edge brings us through to Cloyster. This is where we need to adjust. Cloyster's physical defense is massive, but special defense is much weaker. Not as bad as ours, but still. Flamethrower is neutral, so we go for it, but Cloyster uses Protect. I'm not mad though. It actually gives us another turn to heal. Next turn, Flamethrower lands and drops it to red health. Cloyster sets up Hail, which that is annoying because it effectively cancels out the healing we get from leftovers as long as Hail is active. Lorelei also burns a full restore, but another Flamethrower brings it back to where it was. She uses another full restore, another Protect follows, but in the end, there's nothing Lorelei can do. 2 more Flamethrowers finally push us past our biggest obstacle. It might not be the most exciting or suspenseful way to win a fight, just brute forcing it at a high level, but at least we didn't jump straight to level 90 or 100. The end of that battle was still a bit messy, and we need to conserve power points for the rest of the Elite Four and the rival. And I'm not trying to rush through this commentary, but there isn't much to talk about when it comes to Bruno. Dragon Breath handles the Onyxes, and Double Edge plus Dragon Breath cleans up the fighting types. We take some damage, but nothing leftovers can't handle. It's an easy fight. I expect something similar with Agatha. Actually, Agatha took several attempts. It mostly comes down to poison and bad confusion luck. If things can line up properly, those factors should not be a problem. Despite being 30 levels higher than it, and it being weak to dark moves, Gengar still survives our crunch. Double team plus a full restore can be annoying, but as long as our back-to-back crunches don't miss, it really isn't a problem. Sticking with the notion that our offense is actually a little bit weaker than I thought, Golbat can also withstand a double edge. Again, I thought that would be a one-shot. Confuse Ray has been Golbat's opening move every time we've seen it. We get Dragon Breath out on the next turn, Golbat does not get the heal off, and down she goes. And we snap out Confusion right when Arbok comes out. This thing has probably been the biggest nuisance in all of these attempts. Intimidate is active, but Double Edge is still a solid move. Sludge Bomb is too apparently, since it lands as a critical hit, and it poisons us. We are on a timer now, but we've taken Arbok out. That plus leftovers is giving us a bit of breathing room. The second Gengar survives Crunch and delivers another Sludge Bomb. We are in red health and Gengar is still in the yellow despite the Citrus Berry. That means no heal up, so another Crunch brings us to Agatha's last Pokemon, Haunter. Her special defense is markedly worse than her fully evolved form, so Crunch finally lands a one-shot, leaving us with a win and only 16 health. Despite the critical hit Sludge Bomb that poisoned us, things went pretty well for that battle. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm going to heal B2B up and see if we are really cut out to beat Lance. And yeah, for the first time in a long time, Lance doesn't really put up much of a fight. Like I mentioned earlier, dragons only have two weaknesses, Ice and Dragon. So even though the Corvus team is made up of evolved members of the Generation 1 Pseudo-Legendary line, our first form Generation 3 Pseudo-Legendary is at a high enough level that we move first and one-shot both Dragonairs and yes, even Dragonite, even though it technically was a critical hit. Gyarados is a different story. I was hoping 2 double edges would be enough, but it isn't. Still, this was early in the battle and Lance decided not to use any healing items yet, so we finished it off on the following turn. Aerodactyl is the only real complication thanks to its rock typing, but Dragon Breath is still useful as long as Paralysis lands. That part drags on a bit since Lance hasn't used a single healing item up to this point, but eventually we come out ahead when it comes to damage output, and that leads to a first try victory. Okay, we got through the Elite Four well enough once Lorelei was out of the way. So will this level lead to a clean wrap up against our rival 2? Well, Pidgeot doesn't really do anything in this fight. Gyarados can be a problem, but it mostly just stalls, so we're a bit worn down before Charizard comes out, and that's where we see the end of these runs. On the second attempt, our rival randomly switches while we were fighting Pidgeot, so we faced Gyarados earlier than expected. We still beat it, but from there our rival just sends out everyone else except Charizard. Rhydon does a lot of damage, but Charizard is still the one that finishes us off. It also takes several tries to even get Charizard paralyzed, and even when we do, we don't get the follow-up luck we need, so yeah, that's a loss as well. After a frankly absurd number of attempts, I finally admit that we are just too weak, so after some adjustments, we're back in this battle at level 90. One-shot critical hit on Pidgeot to start things off, that's a great start. We hit Gyarados with Dragon Breath, and it answers with Dragon Rage. Double Edge takes it to yellow, and another Dragon Rage leaves us still in the green. First full restore from our rival comes out here, but 2 double edges afterward almost finished Gyarados. Hydro Pump is hitting harder than Dragon Rage, especially when it lands as a critical hit. 46 health remaining after leftovers, but I think this is another loss when it comes to Charizard. Gyarados actually goes down without getting a second heal up. Thanks for the critical hit game, I really don't think we needed it there. I would really love that for the Charizard though. At this point, I've kind of given up on the paralyze it with Dragon Breath strategy. Double Edge brings it to half health, and then Charizard's Fire Blast misses. Thought we had it, but then the Citrus Berry kicks in. We're already committed to Double Edge, and it's not quite enough to finish it, but we somehow get extremely lucky again, and Charizard's second Fire Blast missing as well. Sure, we are not out of the woods yet, thanks to another full restore, but with no Citrus Berry, I think 2 Double Edges can't. I cannot believe what's happening here. That crit came out of nowhere, but I will take the one shot. I mean, we were most likely going to still win this exchange with 2 hits, so this just basically saved us a PowerPoint. Okay, we are not out of the woods yet. Alakazam is not a problem though. Double Edge leads to a predictable one shot, Executor still survives Flamethrower, but with the Sleep Powder missing and our rival just throwing out full restores, we just keep spamming our fire moves and healing up on the side till we get this coconut tree to faint. So Rhydon is all that is left, and this thing can definitely be a problem. I tried Crunch since it is a special type attack. The critical hit was nice, Rock Tomb lowering our speed was not, but we are still in the green, and we're still faster. So yeah, one more Crunch and we finally won the game. This challenge was supposed to be one of the easier ones. A nice, simple, first form pseudo-legendary dragon run while I was on vacation. And don't get me wrong, this whole thing went much better than my previous Swablu run, link in the description. But the bad luck we had with our nature really added an extra layer of difficulty for this run. Now don't get me wrong, I actually had a lot of fun, partly because I was on vacation, but also because Bagon had a lot of good moves, and it's always fun doing a dragon type run. I just didn't expect our special defense to be so poor that even our resistances could still get us taken out in 1 or 2 hits. Gotta love the dragon type though. For my next run, I'm not really sure what Pokemon I'm going to use, let alone what type I'm thinking about using, but you'll see it when you see it. In the meantime, feel free to check out some of my other challenges. Don't forget to like and subscribe for updates, and leave comments about what you enjoyed, what challenges you would like to see in the future, and any suggestions for improving these videos. I always appreciate creative input. Also, if you feel like leaving a little tip, seriously, no pressure, you can scan the QR code that's about to pop up on the screen. It just helps fuel my caffeine dependency, which fuels these videos. Anyway, thanks for watching everyone, and until next time, Geronimo.